Hey, today we're gonna look at the rock cycle using Starburst. This is a great activity to do with students, especially young students, because they all love Starburst. So what I have here is 4 Starbursts, different colors, okay? And I have myself set up on a piece of wax paper. And the first thing I have done is I've taken my Starburst and I've cut it into strips. And then I've cut those strips into small pieces as my sediments. Okay, so we're going to start the rock cycle at the sediment end of things. Okay, so I have cut up my 4 different sediments. Okay, so I have yellow and red and orange and pink. Okay, and so sediments would settle into little groups and then get compacted down a little bit, and another layer of sediments would come in on top of that and settle in, and then another layer of sediments would come in and settle in on top of that, and then another layer of sediments would come in and be deposited and settle in on top of that. So here is my sediments undergoing compaction, deposition, compaction, and cementation. So I'm going to give them a little bit more compaction. I'm going to put a piece of wax paper around it, and then I'm going to take my hand and kind of squish down on it, and I'm going to take a big heavy book and I'm going to push down. This is my compaction and cementation taking place. Okay, so I've squished it down really, really well. Okay, and then I open my wax paper, and oh, look at that. I have lovely layers of sediments there. Okay, so that's my sedimentary rock being formed. And the next one, of course, is metamorphic rock. And metamorphic rock gets made by heating. So I'm going to heat it up by rubbing it in my hands a little bit. Okay, and pressure, so it's being folded over, okay? So it's heat and pressure, pushing it together, and now it's really hard to tell the different layers from each other. They've been folded and molded. Here's my regional metamorphism getting folded together, my contact metamorphism getting heated up. Okay, so now there's my metamorphic rock. Okay, and so my metamorphic rock is all nicely melded together. Now, it could weather and erode, and so I could weather it and erode it and take little pieces off of it. It could go off and become sedimentary rock again. Okay, or it could undergo melting and become an igneous rock. So what I've done over here is I have a Sensi lamp, and this lamp has a nice bright hot light bulb in it, and I have set a piece of aluminum foil on top. What I did was I took a piece of aluminum foil and I folded it over, and then I pinched the corners together like this, made a little boat that I could then put my metamorphic rock onto. Okay, and then this you could use in a number of different ways in a classroom. If you have hot plates, you could put it on a hot plate. If you don't have hot plates, you could, using a pair of tongs, hold it over a candle and heat it that way. At home, you could take this and put it into a frying pan, or even put it directly on your stove if you have an electric stove, and let it get melty. Okay, this is going to take just a little while, but what you want to see with the metamorphic rock is the melting of the rock. Okay, so we're going to see this heating up, and it's getting hot, and it's getting really sticky in there. Okay, when you do it on the hot plate at school, you can really see it melt very quickly, and sometimes even burn, and the kids love that because it starts to bubble and it gets really smelly. But the smell of burnt sugar can get kind of nasty after a while. So let's see if we're making any progress here. Oh yeah, we are definitely making progress here. Okay, so you can see that the rock is starting to melt and become very, very sticky and moldy. And so if it continued to do that, of course, it would completely melt and mold into something else altogether. See how it's changing already in that heat, okay? And so the kids would see that melting becomes magma, and then of course you would let it set down and let the students see that it would mold all together again, okay? And it would all be melty and molded, and it wouldn't look like anything like it did before. In fact, all the colors would be blended together into one piece, and it would eventually, when you stick it in you could stick it in the fridge, or you could just have them leave it on their desk for a few minutes, and eventually they would see that it's solidified into an igneous rock. Okay. Then again, what happens to igneous rocks? Well, they could undergo heat and pressure and become a metamorphic rock, okay? Or they could undergo erosion, weathering and erosion, and become sediments again and go back again to being a sedimentary rock. So this is, again, a really good activity for showing kids the different stages of the rock cycle. Really inexpensive. One bag of Starburst can go for a whole class. Give each group of 2 students, 4 different colors of Starburst and a pair of scissors. And even with young kids, the blunted scissors will work just fine to cut the Starburst as long as they're not really cold. If they're, their normal room temperature, they'll cut just fine. And you can control the heating process. I usually have the hot plate up at my desk and control the heating process. So if you had to do it with candles, or I don't think you guys would have Bunsen burners these days because they've pretty much outlawed those in classrooms. A lamp with a really bright bulb on it works, a hot plate works, a candle works, and then the kids can see the melting, and you can kind of control that a little bit. And again, you can see what happens as it starts to melt. It gets really melty and sticky, and they can see that that would definitely all end up being one big blob. And once it cooled, that would be your igneous rock. So, really cool activity with Starburst for students to show them the rock cycle, and I hope that was helpful.